What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Aaron, being welcome to Tacos and Touchdowns. And my apologies. I'm looking like a MySpace video right now, so we're gonna rock with it right now. I'm gonna be working on it a little bit, but before we get into the show, I want to shout out to our sponsors, What a Clean Solutions. If you need to get your carpets clean, couches, tile, and grout, moving in or moving out, and need to get the chance to your place to look new, call What a Clean Solution, a family-owned mobile cleaning service that can clean anything from a small carpet to even making your car or truck look new. Give them a call at 210-790-1410 and use the promo code TNT for 5% off your total cleaning. And that's the promo code TNT, and call at 210-790-1410 for 5% off. So we got training camp going on this week. Finally getting to see some glimpses of football. How's it going, Shane?
It's going great, and I love this part of year because it really feels like the wait is just that much closer to being over. And I'm one of the people who actually likes the training camp, who likes preseason games because it gives you like a little taste. I always compare it to people who are trying to get sober and they go through withdrawal, and then when you finally get that taste back in your mouth or back in your veins or whatever your fix is, and you're right back on the stuff. That's kind of what it's like for me, and so I'm excited. Even though today we had some mixed news, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we definitely got a lot to talk about. But we can talk into even some good news when it comes to of a certain cornerback that
I can dig it.
Yeah, Trayvon Diggs. Yes, sir. So I want to go into the details. He just signed a 5-year extension worth $97 million with a $21.2 million signing bonus. I know you're good with the numbers. Do you got like all the details of what that contract's looking like?
Well, I do know that it looks like the first 2 years of his contract, his base value is going to be below 10 mil. He won't touch 10 mil plus as a cap figure until year 3, so 2026 of his contract. So that's a great deal for the Cowboys. And not only that, but he didn't have to reset the cornerback market because we talked about how the cornerback market is a group of really great cornerbacks. There's no real top paid player. Right now, I believe Jair Alexander is the highest paid cornerback. But what's cool about Trayvon Diggs is that he essentially got paid while also taking a bit of a pay cut for the Cowboys. And now I feel like we talked about this. I know we talked about which contract needed to be paid first. I made the argument that Trayvon Diggs needed to be paid first just because of the urgency of it compared to CeeDee Lamb, who has his 50-year option. But one thing I don't think we touched on enough was that it gives them stability in the secondary for the first time in years, because you have Donovan Wilson signed an extension this past offseason. Jaron Curse is still under contract. You have Deron Bland on his rookie deal. You got Diggs on an extension. We'll see how much longer players like Malik Hooker and Stephon Gilmore here after this season, maybe even Jordan Lewis. But Trayvon Diggs, your 2-time Pro Bowler, 1-time All-Pro so far, one of the best cornerbacks in the league, he finally is getting his money, and the Cowboys are getting the money's worth.
Absolutely. And thinking about I know everybody was a big fan, and some people weren't a fan of the year before, when he allowed 156 yards. He didn't improve last year with only allowing 143 less from last year. This year with 713 yards. So you see them improvements. And then some of the guys he covered, let me see, Terry McLaurin.
He held Justin Jefferson to 32 yards in coverage. Yeah. Come on. That's the best receiver in the game. Don't play with me.
Yeah, and then there's the guy that I know the Commanders are very high on. Terry McLaurin only had 15 yards in week 4. And I'm looking at some other guys like Michael Pittman, only allowed 18 yards. Well, let me not try to get all into it because I know we got a little bit more to talk about.
I will say this, though. This is true. In coverage in his career, he's only allowed over 100 yards in a single game twice in his career. One of those games was last year against Cooper Kupp, and those came at the precipice of 2 50-plus yard plays. And that was only the second time in his career he's allowed over 100 yards in man coverage. As a matter of fact, last year, in terms of both combined man and zone coverage when in personnel, he allowed almost 250 combined receiving yards allowed. You mentioned 143. That was in man. But in terms of like overall, he allowed over 250 yards in total coverage less than the year before. We gotta give him his flowers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that we got this handled early because next year would have been you'd probably been even paying more, and you got a great deal when it comes to that. And this year only paying him like you were saying a million, and then you still got his rookie contract after that. So you're getting a good deal for Trayvon Diggs, and he's still getting good money.
I wonder how that makes Zach Martin feel that someone else's deal got done.
Oh yeah, like that's the next thing we got to talk about is Zach Martin.
Transition.
Yeah, absolutely transition for sure. But before we get into that, I want to we got to show love quick to our second sponsor, SeatGeek. Life's an event. We have tickets, concert, games, shows, and more. Use promo code, all capital letters, tacos, touchdowns, and get you $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek, a ticket for every fan. So, yeah, Zach Martin still needs to get that extension contract going on, and he's still holding out.
I want to hear what you have to think because I know we talked about this a little bit last week, but I'm actually curious what you think because I know you're very much pro pay the player, but I think and paying all these guys at one moment together reminds me of 2020 when they paid Jalen Smith, La'el Collins, and Ezekiel Elliott all in the span of like 5 days of each other.
Yeah,
and I ain't saying necessarily that's a bad thing because like giving people money opens up cap space in the immediate future, especially when you have players like CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons who will be eligible in a couple years for extensions or not, next year actually. But both those players will have an extension at some point over the next couple years. I don't know. Do you think this like? Do you think? And I know Zach Martin. Like it was reported that he texted the O lineman saying he's going to be there, which tells me that his holdout is probably going to end.
Yeah.
But I do wonder though, and I think maybe you probably might be able to answer this. Like I do wonder though if Zach Martin's contract is going to overlap someone else's deal. Who else also might be up for an extension? We mentioned Terrence Steele. We mentioned Tyler Biadasz. I don't know. Zach Martin's so important to this team. I have to imagine he leapfrogs at least a few people, despite his age.
Yeah, he's got to. He just he's that leader when it comes to that offense and then the offensive line. And missing a guy like that, this offensive line is not perfect. They need a guy like a Zach Martin's on there. Like there's been injuries happening in this during this off season. Hopefully, we're not going to see none on the offense or just in general. But I think you should try to. I know they're working on getting a contract work with him. If it's a extra year extension or something, just to put some money or towards this year or anything, because you got him in what the number 6 highest paid guards, and there's a few guards on there I question that like, okay, he needs to get that contract above over them. So
You can make the argument that he should be the highest paid guard in the NFL.
yeah, you could absolutely. I think the highest paid guard right now is Christian Lindstrom right now. Yes, with 35 million this year.
He's good, but the fact that he's making more than Quentin Nelson really kind of rubs me the wrong way a little bit. I'm fine. I think he's a top 10 guard in the NFL, but he ain't better than Zach. He ain't better than Nelson. He ain't better than someone like Joe Batonio. He's still good, but like I think the guard market is kind of all over the place. Like the top end guys have like a price range, not necessarily like a price tag.
Yeah, Zach Martin needs to be in the lead, put him in that top 3 type of money, and we do got to still have some cap to move that around.
Let me ask you this. Before we go to the next one. Okay, the Cowboys assume they want to get 3 contracts on the offensive line: Zach Martin, Terrence Steele, Tyler Biadasz. What's the order of the guys you would get paid of those 3?
Of those 3, so
yeah.
I definitely want to get that Martin contract, and then you can get Terrence Steele on a good bargain contract after the ACL injury, and then I'll get to Tyler Biadasz. So, well, who would you have in your top 3?
Okay, so right away, I actually think Tyler Biadasz is the most important player on that list just because outside of the blindside tackle, the center is the most important position on the offensive line, in my opinion. He's the one who raised the defenses. He's the one who calls out things for the quarterback to look at, calls out blocking assignments. you need someone like that. And Tyler Biadasz is really starting to come under his own. Last year, he made the Pro Bowl, and it was deservedly so because he's now for the blocker. He and Dak really have that kind of coordination. We saw a little bit of it with Travis Frederick. He ain't the same player as Travis Frederick. He's kind of like, if Travis Frederick's an A+, Biadasz is just like a B+, A-. But the center, to me, is the second most important position on the offensive line. After that, I go Zach Martin just because he is an All-Pro. And I wouldn't even say that he's second. I'm only putting him second in terms of like who I would pay first, just because one, center positions are cheaper to pay, and two, Zach Martin is still under contract for at least another season after this, so they can still get a deal done. Terrence Steele to me is interesting just because the right tackle market is even higher now because Titus Howard, the right tackle at Houston, he got his money. He got paid big, $19 million a year. And even though Terrence Steele's coming off an injury, he's also coming off his best season. He and Zach Martin, that right side had most of the Cowboys rushing yards compared to the left side, depending on whatever rotation you want to put over there. Them together formulated one of the better right guard, right tackle combos in the NFL last year. And Terrence Steele is only, I believe, 25 years old. He's still young. Assuming he comes back healthy from injury, and I hope the Cowboys don't rush him, I think he would obviously take the place of Tyron Smith at the right tackle because I think he's a better right tackle option. And I think even though I think Tyler Smith's a better left tackle option, that's a different topic for a different day. I think Terrence Steele will be the third guy I pay out of that group.
Okay. Yeah, and I know for now, Tyron Smith is definitely going to be the left tackle for the time being until he retires, because I know the future is Tyler Smith's going to be the left tackle. We just need to figure out who's going to be our left guard. But like you said, that's another time or different day. But our next subject is Donovan Wilson. First day of practice, gets the calf strain for 4 to 6 weeks. And you hate to see that.
Hey, but you know what? It's better to be a calf strain. I thought it might have been. I was fearing it was an ACL tear.
Oh, I think that was a lot of us.
Because I remember a few years ago when Sean Lee on the first day of practice, he planted his foot wrong, tore his ACL, out for the year. And Sean Lee's career was defined, honestly, by injuries. Donovan Wilson's coming off a season that he was actually 5th in pressure rate as a safety. He's essentially like, a safety, linebacker, edge rusher kind of player. The Cowboys need him. Whatever they thought they were going to get in Jamal Adams, they got in Donovan Wilson. And he got his 24 mil this past offseason. And so I was just like, oh, no, don't get your money and then have to lose it. But it looks like he's going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks, which is, all the training camp, all preseason, which is fine. We were barely going to see him play in the preseason at all, if at all. But I'm actually interested to see what this does now for players like Israel Mukuamu and Marquise Bell, the 4th and 5th option safeties on the team. Now they get probably more playing time as a result of this. Mukuamu got a lot of playing time last year as a nickel safety. I think Bell is going to do a lot of the Jaron Kearse stuff, and now he's going to obviously do the Donovan Wilson stuff also. I'm interested to see if they play any free safety at all between those two. They're both about to get a lot more looks now because they're not going to play Kearse in any preseason games. We won't see Malik Hooker much at all. I mean, we might see Hooker and Kearse a little bit, but I doubt they would want to, reduce their safety room as much as it is. But I think we'll see a lot of Bell and a lot of Kearse as a result. And I think Wilson, we need to breathe a sigh of relief that it wasn't worse than it was.
Yeah, absolutely. And having those guys have to step up, like a Marquise Bell, who was known for being a run stopper. He's kind of that safety slash linebacker kind of guy.
Yes.
And then you got Mukuamu, who can play corner and he can play safety. That you get to see those guys who you're definitely going to see in preseason. And
I like Mukuamu. You love Mukuamu.
Oh yeah, I do. And just for a guy his size, he just very smooth, a smooth athlete for a guy that's like 6'4", about 210 or something.
He's got ball skills too. They don't talk about it. He's got hands.
Yeah, he does. Like, he was a corner at South Carolina, and people questioned that he would be a corner. And then when you can go back to the Bucks game, he showed that he could play some corner in that big slot. And there's another guy that you could look at too, but it's gonna be tough for him to be on there, like a Tyler Coyle, and then what's his name? I don't want to butcher it now. I know his last name is Thomas. So it's interesting.
Wanya?
Yeah,
Wanya Thomas.
Yeah, Wanya Thomas. Those are like
Wanya Thomas to me is like, he has talent, not a whole like when I saw him, last year he played with a lot of talent, not with a lot of like, skill, if that makes sense. Like he played more like with his abilities rather than knowing where everything was. Tyler Cole is a smart player, but his best attribute has been as a special teams tackler. He's a good tackler, and really, I think if he played full time linebacker, he'd probably have a better shot at making the roster. But the Cowboys are like loaded at safety. I doubt they keep six. But Tyler Cole seems to be a guy in the last couple of seasons, like, and I think you noticed this. He starts off the year on practice squad. They bring him on towards the end of the year for depth and for special teams reasons. And so Coyle now is also, you're right, he's going to get the opportunities to do that, but he's never really been a coverage guy. He's been always really more of just a really good run stuffing tackler.
And we got plethora of run stop and tackler when it comes to our linebackers and safety. So it'd be tough for him to make the team. But like you're saying, he'll probably just be like the practice squad. Somebody goes down, he's going to be on the special teams or a depth piece. But our next thing is we got to talk about training camp. And what are some training camp things that have been going on? Like it's been a fun day one and day two.
I know what you want to say. Go ahead. I know you got one you're ready to go with.
Oh yeah,
you tweeted it out.
Oh yeah. My favorite ones are the Jalen's. I'm just gonna say the Jalen's in general. But the main one I want to talk about is Jalen Moreno Cropper, who's been showing out in these past 2 days. A hell of a route runner coming out of Fresno State and can track the ball and catch. Oh, did you see that catch he did today? Where he jumped in front of like 2 players? Like this guy's not the biggest guy.
No, he's only 6'1", 175, 180. He was one of the guys I told you about after the undrafted free agent period from the draft. That he was one of the guys I thought would actually have a legit shot at making the team because I thought he was a better player, a better prospect at least than Jalen Brooks, their 7th round pick. He's a really good route runner. He's got really good speed separation. Ran a high 4.3, low 4.4. I think he's like a 4.38 to 4.42 kind of 40 kind of guy. Mm-hmm. He's not very big, but he's got good hands. I think what's going to separate him is if he can play special teams. As a receiver, he's a much better player, at least from the tape, than say players like honestly than guys like Dennis Houston or even I already mentioned Jalen Brooks. But I think right now he has an edge as a receiver just in terms of his tape. But sometimes that's I've seen it a lot of times that 6th or 7th receiver option has to be a guy who's going to be a gunner, and I don't know if he can do that.
And the thing is, like, he's only a slot only receiver, and like he said, he's got to step up on special teams to get on the field because we got a lot of talent. But I think oh my bad.
No, I was nodding my head. I was agreeing with you.
Oh, okay. No, and the next guy is Jalen Tolbert. That's who's been showing out. You kind of seen what he was doing at South Alabama, where he's doing well tracking the ball. He had one hiccup that we've seen against Nashawn Wright, but overall he's been having a good solid camp these first 2 days. Mm-hmm. And I think my next one is
Tolbert's a guy. I was going to say that Jalen Tolbert's a guy that, is kind of under pressure to perform this year because he had all that talent coming out of South Alabama. He's got the size, speed, and hands that you want, but he didn't really do much of anything last year. So any kind of production he can get this year would be considered an improvement.
Oh, absolutely. And then you drafted him in the was it this
3rd round?
Mm-hmm. 3rd round, and
top 100 pick.
Yeah, that pressure's right there. Like it's his opportunity to be that 4th receiver because you already know guys like the Cooks who've been definitely stepping up. CeeDee Lamb's already solidified as receiver 1. Yep. Gallup is your number 3.
Tolbert's biggest competition right now is definitely Simi Fehoko. Fehoko had a good OTA, but we saw that everyone saw that tip pass interception from earlier today. That's been kind of his thing. He didn't have the best hands. He can run deep and he's fast. He had a hard time establishing routes. Had a hard time keeping the ball in his hands. He drops were a problem. Yeah. If Jalen Tolbert can hold on to the ball, he'll pass him up just based on that alone.
And that's the most important part of being a receiver. You got to catch the ball.
Like literally, it's in your job description. Catch the ball.
Yeah, that's number 1 on there. Like, if you're not the fastest, can you catch the ball and can you run that route that we need you to do?
Yep. You know what else I noticed? I actually noticed this a little bit in practice that the Cowboys were using a lot of Chuma Edoga as both a guard and a tackle. He's played a little bit of right tackle in place of Terrence Steele with the 2s. He played some left guard also with Tyler Smith at left tackle with the ones. That was
Yeah.
ones for a little bit was Chuma Edoga and Matt Wesco. I think he played some right guard also. They're using Chuma Edoga. They're one of their free agent acquisitions this past offseason. I think they want to try and find like what spot is best for him. Does he make up the best five? Because I've made the argument that I don't know if Tyron Smith is even in the best five. And so I think with Chuma Edoga, I think they're trying to see how versatile he is. Can he be used in multiple spots? Because when he was with the Jets, he was primarily a guard tackle combo player on the left side. I don't believe he played on the right side. I could be wrong, but I don't believe he did. I'm interested to see how he does. And also, like, I did see a little Deuce Vaughn action. Did you see him run that draw to the left? Where
Oh yeah.
He's the smallest dude out there, but he has such burst. That burst off the line of scrimmage is like what made him so special. We know he's 5'6", 180 pounds or whatever he is, but that second level speed that he's able to get to that quick, those shorter guys who have those shorter legs can usually speed quicker, and that's going to make him so deadly out the backfield. It would be nice. It would be nice if he was 5'9", 5'10", 200 pounds, because then he could be more of an every down back or a more often back. But even if he's just a utility guy as a rookie, he's going to be fun to watch.
Oh yeah, and that's when you think about him being 5'6" actually could be a benefit sometimes, because there'll be some defensive players that miss him, and he's like you would see him, he bursts out of it and goes to that second level, and then you got to see him out catching the ball in space, and he was dominating at that. I think he's going to be a heck of a role player when deeper down into the season.
Yeah,
I like that one. And this one is almost an obvious one. Is definitely the Dak and Brandon Cooks connection. It kind of reminds you of that Randall Cobb back in 2020, but I think it's even better.
I got you. Yeah, like that new chemistry he's making that's been real effective. I got you.
Yeah. And just seeing that he's showing that he has that deep threat ability as a receiver, because the Cowboys definitely that deep threat receiver, and I think that's what Brandon Cooks going to bring. And he's just a crisp route runner, and he's a route. He's deep into his craft when it comes to you see him in drills and everything.
You know, I hate to use those words. If whenever we talk about sports, is like if he can stay healthy, if that and the other. I hate that because that's just kind of lazy takes. But I'm just gonna say right now, if Michael Gallup is full go, him and Brandon Cooks running deep routes will be deadly against any secondary.
All right, yeah, that's one of the things you definitely want to see. If they're, I don't even like using that word too. If they both can stay healthy for them 17 games into the playoffs, man, that's gonna be a good receiving lineup with those three, and hopefully we can see who's gonna be that fourth receiver. Man, this will be a good season.
One more thing on Brandon Cooks is that one that's gonna make him so Dak friendly. People like use that term, Dak friendly. He has averaged over 2 yards of 2 yards of separation per route, and the majority of his career. The majority of his career, he's averaged at least 2 yards of a separation per route, and that's the distance between him and his nearest defender at the time the ball is released. For those that don't know, so when the ball is released, he's at least 2 yards away from the nearest defender, and that gives the quarterback enough time to get the ball out to him. That's something Dak loves. You see why he has a connection with CD is because CD can separate. Cooks has speed and can separate, and that's what's going to be so deadly with him. Whether it's as a deep threat or even like as a utility receiver who runs the multiple route tree. He has a huge route tree that's kind of like Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper was just more of like a big splash kind of player that Cooks doesn't have, but Cooks has consistency, which honestly sometimes might be better.
Yeah, and you want that consistency. Like he could that guy that that go-to guy when you need that big catch, and that's what Brandon Cooks could bring. Like it's crazy that in 2 days of how much we didn't see. It felt like we didn't watch like a whole week full of training camp.
It's exciting.
Yeah, and we're going to continue bringing this content for y'all. I promise next Thursday, this camera's going to work. I'm going to have to buy one. All right, and I'll shout out to Amazon because I definitely might have to get one on that.
I'm still trying to set up. I'm trying to set up for the people watching, the people listening, an NFC East preview show. I'm just having a hard time coordinating guests to agree on a day, but we are going to have that for y'all eventually. We'll have someone from the Eagles, Washington, whatever they're going to be called eventually, and New York Giants. But be on the lookout for that show.
Yeah, absolutely. But this has been Tacos and Touchdowns. Hopefully, y'all get to see my face next week. But y'all have a good weekend. Yeah, enjoying that training camp is here and the season is coming near. It's gonna be a great year for football. Y'all have a good one.
Taco
Peace.
Thursday.
Yes, sir.